like a fist and throwing haymakers. It was crazy.
And you had
people
no
going
striking
nuts.
training? How much striking training had you had by then?
Like, about my first fight, about a month.
A month.
But not real training, just like knowing I was going to throw punches and like working on myself. And then...
you just worked with yourself?
I mean, just like... I've been in fights before.
Right.
I knew I could hit hard. I had like a heavy right hand. And I've been a huge boxing fan my whole life, so I know what it looked like. And I was a coordinated guy, you know? So I just thought no one would be able to beat me up. I'm like, there's no way...
Really?
anybody's going to beat me up.
Wow, that's pretty fucking confident, man.
Yeah.
What was it like when you had your first loss?
It didn't hurt, but it was a little disorienting. I went in and it was against Tyson Griffin. We were fighting in a parking lot of a casino up in Northern California, and it was like hot out, and I went in there in the first round. I do like a Superman punch, and then I kneed him in the face, and I hit an inside trip, and I brought my head to the outside, and the the Gladiator Challenge guys were having trouble with the cage, and they were lazy, and so they took the black covering, but they didn't put the padding over the steel on the bottom of the cage. So I did a head dive as I was taking Tyson Griffin down, and just slammed into the cage.
Oh my god.
And my head just started gushing blood. I ended up getting 7 staples after the fight. It was 8 seconds into the fight. So 8 seconds into the fight, I'm just, blood's gushing down my face. And I've got him in a guillotine, and I'm shaking my head like this. And I'm telling Herb's ref, and I'm like, Herb, I'm busted open, or I'm bleeding, or something like that. So he breaks us in a guillotine position. And I was all out of shape. I mean, I was all discombobulated. And Ted Williams comes in. And I had sold like 300 tickets. This is how I was making money at this time, was selling tickets. I had sold like 300 tickets to get here. It was 8 seconds into the fight. And the doctor comes in, who ended up being a vet. And Ted Williams comes in. And the doctor's looking at me, and Ted goes, "Is he okay?" And he said, "Are you okay?" The doctor said, "I'm not sure. You tell me." You know? And then Ted said, "He's fine, he's fine, he's fine." And they just started the fight again. Then I don't remember anything. I was just going crazy. It was like it was like, Herb says it's one of the best fights that guys have never seen. It was just like a knockdown, drag out, back and forth. And my jiu-jitsu instructor at the time, Cassio, didn't make it to the fight. I just had my striking coach at that time, Dave Marinoble. And I didn't know what was going on. It was like a close fight, the first and the second rounds. It was probably 1-1 for rounds. And my coach is like, "You got to knock him out." I don't have any knockout, like any serious knockouts at this point. So I go in at the beginning of the third round and just do like a jumping right hand, and he throws like a straight right on the button and drops me. And I didn't go out, but I was like getting pounded on, and the ref called it.
You were probably so fucked up from the first shot. It's amazing you were able to fight 3 rounds.
Dude, that's
like
what Tyson and I had.
A bar of metal.
Yeah. Tyson and I had like a little beef after that for a while. It was just kind of like, because he felt like I was making excuses. I'm like, I didn't make because I was telling the story.
Right.
Like, yeah, I got 7 staples in my head after the fight, and this and that. I was like fighting like a wild animal. And he's like, his guys from his hometown were saying I was making excuses. I'm like, I understand I lost the fight. I'm just telling what really happened. I'm not saying I had a fever or anything. I really hit my head. And he was huge. You know, he's got about 40 pounds on me walking around.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's the Wild West, man, of MMA. Yeah. Because, I mean, this is a fight. The thing that's so intriguing about our sport is that this is what would really happen if you mess with someone and they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to have to deal with. And it is still that.
Right.
But, it's like one of those things where you gotta look out for people's safety, but you don't want people abusing the rules, like putting their knee down all of a sudden and like putting their hand down. It's like, if you're in a bad position, you should be able to have to react.
The only argument I've heard that's against stomps and soccer kicks on the ground is the cage. They're like, if you're going to have stomps and soccer kicks on the ground, you should have ropes so you can slide in the ropes to avoid it. You shouldn't have a spot where they can shove your head up against it and soccer kick you in the head, because it's not natural. They should be able to move around. You shouldn't be able to use the cage as an actual weapon.
Yeah.
Which there's an argument in that at least in Pride they could They could see the kick coming. They can move. They can move. Like
Right.
if you're running into a wall, you can't move. You're just going to get soccer kicked in the head. You know, you could say, well, you should never let yourself get into that position, but it seems almost like you're using the cage in a way that probably isn't that safe.
Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, but in reality, and I always go back to, and that's why I always get on Dominic, because this is really like the gladiator days where it's like a simulated fight to the death.
Dominic Cruz,
Yeah.
for folks who don't know, was your last time you guys fought. It was a very close decision. A lot of people thought you could have won. A lot of people thought he could have won. It was a very, very close fight.
Right.
And you guys were set to fight in the rematch, but Dominic recently blew out his knee, so now you're going to be fighting Renan Barão.
Right.
But yeah, you criticized Dominic's style. That's like point fighting, right?
I mean, you can't really criticize him too much, other than the fact that it's not. I feel like he could have potential to finish some guys,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't go for that. And this is really a simulated fight. I mean, this is a fight to the death. And Diaz says the same thing. It's like, if we were in a fight to the death, you know, who would win?
Right.
You know, and at that, on that level, like, I'd like to see guys try to finish all
Right.
the time.
Right.
You know, not like play by the rules and this and that. You know, like tag somebody and like it looks like you're hurting him. And I feel like Dominic has potential to do some damage. He just doesn't know how, or doesn't try, you know, to finish. It's a mentality thing.
Now, this style of fighting where you just go by and get points, but still win. I mean, it can be effective for guys, and
Yeah,
and
it definitely
isn't
is.
it all for. I mean, how do you make a distinction? Like, when do you decide whether it's all about being as entertaining as possible, or it's all about winning? Like, it seems to me that there's like,
I just don't feel like that's winning.
so to you, it's not honorable to try to like just point your way through it. You're
I
trying
wouldn't
to.
say Dominic, for example, is not. It's not dishonorable. I mean, he's trying to do damage, and maybe he just doesn't have it in him. I don't know, but
He makes fun of the size of his hands. You know, he makes fun of it. We did an interview, and he was saying, I have bitch hands. You know, because he broke his hand.
yeah,
That's something. There's nothing you can do about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's nothing you can do about that. But I mean, I'm not taking anything away. But I would say, you know, the purpose of this sport is like to finish and do damage. And,
right.
and you can't really knock a guy who's really great at what he does, you know, and he is trying. I mean, I guess if you get a guy that crumbles, he'd probably finish him, you know. But I like to go in with a mentality of let's do war. That's Barão is going to try to finish me. I'm going to try to finish Barão, you know, and it's going to be till the bitter end.